The fractured reflection. It started with a flicker. The lights above me buzzed briefly, then returned to their usual hum. It was late, the kind of late where the world feels empty, like the silence has pressed itself against the walls. I was sitting at my desk, typing away on a work report. Nothing special, just another evening in the apartment I'd rented for the past 6 months. The city outside was a dim blur, the lights from neighboring buildings casting long shadows through the window. The flicker didn't seem important. It was the kind of thing you brush off when you're too tired to think. But then it happened again. A second flicker, followed by a deeper hum. I blinked, stared at the overhead light for a moment, then went back to my work. I didn't want to think too hard about it. But as the minutes passed, the sound grew more intrusive, and the light flickered again. This time, I couldn't ignore it. I stood up, rubbed my eyes, and walked over to the light switch. Flipping it off, I watched the room fall into darkness, then back on. The light pulsed in a weak stutter before settling. I sighed. Just a bulb going bad. It wasn't the first time I'd dealt with these minor annoyances in the apartment. The faucet in the kitchen leaked. The radiator never seemed to heat the room properly. The noises from the neighbor's apartment above me kept me awake at night. Nothing to worry about. But that night, the atmosphere felt different. It felt heavy, like the air itself had thickened, refusing to move. I didn't realize it then, but that was when it began. I tried to go back to my report, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. The room felt too quiet, and that's when I heard it, the whisper. I froze. My fingers hovered above the keyboard as I strained my ears, listening. It was soft, faint, but undeniably there. Evelyn. I could feel the hairs on my neck stand up. I turned, scanning the apartment, empty. Just the dark corners of the living room, the soft glow of my desk lamp illuminating the cluttered space. I looked back to the flickering light. My heartbeat quickened. Maybe it was my imagination. A draft. A sound bouncing off the walls. A trick of the mind after too many hours spent in front of a screen. I forced myself to focus on the report again. Focus. But as I sat there, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching me. My eyes darted from shadow to shadow. The apartment felt smaller, the corners closing in. The whisper came again, closer this time, right behind me. Evelyn, look. My breath hitched in my chest. My hands were shaking now, my fingers slipping off the keys. What the hell was that? I stood, slowly, my gaze flicking to the hallway that led into the bathroom. No one there. The apartment was empty. My heart raced. I had to calm down. There was no one here. No one. I walked into the kitchen to grab a glass of water, forcing myself to breathe deeply. The soft hum of the refrigerator filled the silence as I leaned against the counter. I closed my eyes for a moment, then opened them, my gaze landing on the reflection in the kitchen window. At first, I didn't notice it. The glass was fogged with condensation, but there was a figure in the reflection. It wasn't clear, but there was a presence, standing, watching. The shape seemed to shift, like a shadow in the corner of my eye. It wasn't me. My heart pounded in my chest. I backed away from the window, my body stiff with fear. The figure was gone. I blinked rapidly, trying to shake the images away, but my mind wouldn't let me forget. I didn't know how to explain it. Was I losing my mind? The next few days weren't much better. I tried to focus on work, to ignore the nagging sensation that something was wrong with the apartment. The lights flickered more often now, a soft buzz in the air, like a constant reminder that I was not alone. The whispers had returned too. I could hear them sometimes, when I was alone. Faint, impossible to place. Evelyn, come closer. I could never figure out where they were coming from, but it didn't matter. They were there, lingering, waiting. I started noticing other things. The door to my bathroom would be ajar when I was sure I'd closed it. A cup on the counter was always moved just a little, as if someone had touched it. Once I found a scuff mark on the wall where there had been none before. I would have dismissed it, but I knew I hadn't made it. The most unsettling part? The mirrors. They weren't just ordinary mirrors. They felt alive, as though they were holding something behind their glass. It was subtle at first, a movement in the corner of my reflection, or a change in the angle of my face, like I was seeing a version of myself that wasn't quite right. I tried not to look into them, but it was hard to avoid. The hallway mirrors were everywhere, in every room, almost as though they were watching me. It was after one particularly long, restless night that I stood in front of the bathroom mirror and stared at my reflection, trying to make sense of it all. My tired eyes looked back at me, but there was something wrong. My reflection was too still, my face too pale. Then I noticed it, the small change. There was something in the background of the reflection just beyond my own shoulder. A shadow, no, a figure standing there. But when I turned to look, it was gone. I snapped. I couldn't take it anymore. I called my friend Lauren the next morning. She had been through a rough breakup, so I figured she could use a distraction. I invited her over to keep me company, to help me shake the dread that had started to take root in my mind. When she arrived, I tried to act normal, to show her around the apartment, to focus on anything but the things I'd been feeling. She seemed fine, if a little distant, and I thought maybe I was just overreacting. We sat on the couch chatting about her breakup and my work, but the silence in the room still felt thick. I could sense the tension growing in the space between us, like the apartment was closing in on us. Suddenly I heard it again, the whisper right next to me. "Evelyn." I glanced at Lauren, but she didn't seem to hear anything. I stood abruptly, my legs shaking, and walked toward the hallway. The whisper came again, but this time it was different. It wasn't just my name, it was a command. "Come closer." Without thinking, I took a step forward, drawn toward the bathroom. It felt like the apartment was pulling me in, urging me to go. My feet moved without my consent, and before I knew it, I was standing in front of the bathroom mirror. I didn't know why I did it. I didn't want to look, but I had to. I had to see what was in the reflection, and when I did, my heart nearly stopped. It wasn't me in the mirror. It was her. The woman was standing behind me, dressed in an old, tattered dress, her face pale, her eyes hollow. She wasn't a reflection, she was real. She was in the mirror, and she was reaching for me. I stumbled back, gasping for air. What the hell was happening? Lauren entered the bathroom, her face a mixture of confusion and concern. "Evelyn, what's wrong?" But I couldn't answer. My mind was reeling. That woman wasn't real. She couldn't be. And yet there she was. I turned to Lauren, my mouth dry. "We need to leave, we need to..." The room went cold. Impossible cold. I spun around, but the bathroom door slammed shut behind us with a force that rattled the walls. The whispers filled the air, louder now, surrounding us. I could feel the pressure building, the weight of something heavy and alive, pressing in from all sides. Then, from the corner of the mirror, I saw her smile. The woman in the reflection. The reflection inched closer, her fingers now brushing the glass. Her smile stretched wider, and I realized it was me she wanted. "Evelyn, come closer." I didn't know if I was still in the apartment anymore, or if I'd ever left it. Thank you for reading The Fractured Reflection. I hope this story brought chills and captivated your imagination. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe to NoSleep Tales on YouTube for more spine-tingling narratives. Share your thoughts and let me know what themes or elements you'd like to see in future stories.